Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has pushed his country into a full-blown constitutional crisis. What might happen next? Well, we'll be talking to somebody who knows Imran Khan really well, political activist, author, journalist, and also his ex-wife Reham Khan will be on the program in a few moments from now. In the meantime, let's take you through the key developments that are unfolding in Pakistan. The Supreme Court of Pakistan is to decide whether Imran Khan's decision to duck the no confidence vote on the floor of the Pakistan Assembly is legally tenable or not. In the meantime, the opposition is targeting the best friend of Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi, who has now been dragged into this controversy and been accused of corruption as well as of fixing government transfers. The curious case of Farah Khan is only the latest twist to the Pakistan drama that seems to get more murky and more sordid by the moment. Will Pakistan's democracy recover from this big hit by Imran Khan? Well, we can go across now to Reham Khan. She is in Islamabad. She's a political activist, a journalist, and an author. And her tell-all book on Imran Khan grabbed international headlines when it was published. Thank you very much, Reham. It's a pleasure speaking with you. Let me start by asking you, are you surprised by what Imran Khan did, or is it as you expected?
Thank you, Barka. And everyone keeps asking me this question, whether I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. I find him fairly predictable as someone who's known what he's all about. And I think many of his friends and family would say that this is very typical of him. So I think a lot of his followers for a very long time believed this image of him being quite simple and not being very shrewd. But I think it's very typical of him not to give up on something that he's bent all the rules in the book so far to get here. So I'm not surprised that he's what it amounts to is really a civil coup. It's like a young boy refusing to accept the rules, a main nahi khelta kind of attitude. It's a toddler tantrum, and it's not surprising since he is or was until recently the ladla. So I think that the people who've selected him, the people who've created this hero, shouldn't be surprised either, because this is very typical of him. Throw a ruckus because he's been removed from his position and refuse to follow the rule book. I mean, he's effectively, as you said, not only ducked the vote of no confidence, but refuses to obey the constitution. And funnily enough, the people who are supporting this, his cult following, which has shrunk in recent days, the fact that they're supporting this as a huge shiksa is also very typical of them, because they don't realize that he does pretend to follow a parliamentary democracy. He has been pretending to be the prime minister of a parliamentary democracy, but here he is not obeying the very constitution by the power of which he was holding public office. And then he's used that constitution, or a loophole in that constitution, to advise the president to dissolve the assemblies. And he is not the prime minister. For all practical purposes, he is the former prime minister. He is the ex-prime minister, and that is also his doing. But how does he accept that part of the constitution and not other parts of the constitution? But only Imran can do that and get away with it.
You have likened him to Donald Trump. Explain that analogy.
I think he's a mini Trump at best, because I think, to be fair to Trump, I wrote an article a couple of years ago that I think that Boris Johnson, Trump, and Imran are sort of cut from the same cloth. I think they are, as the Bollywood films would say, mele mein kho gaye the, kumbh ke mele mein kho gaye the, So I do think that they are, very, very similar. And I've described them as ambition without a cause. I think that they are, to be fair to Trump, why I say Imran is a mini Trump is because Imran doesn't yield the sort of power Trump actually has. To be fair to Trump, he did actually have a little bit more vote. If you consider the last elections, and that is also quite unnerving and disturbing. Imran's vote bank is not real. We say that this was, a fixed match, 2018. He didn't win the vote bank. He tried every trick in the book, but he couldn't have gotten here. He got here because there was no other horse in the race. It wasn't a level playing field. Mariam Nawaz was not part of the race. Nawaz Sharif was disqualified. So he was up against himself and was very, very supported. He had the Ashirwad of the establishment, and I think that is how. So he's pretending to be a Trump. He's pretending to be an Erdogan. This civil coup that he is trying to facilitate is in the footsteps of these people. But I would give it to Erdogan and Trump that they actually have real power also. They do have a vote bank, which Imran, I'm sorry to have to tell his cult following, doesn't enjoy anymore.
As you said, he had the Ashirwad of the establishment in Pakistan to the extent that he was described or seen by his critics as a yes man of the Pakistan military. How does that same man, that same politician, become somebody today who is clearly wanting to diminish the Pakistan military chief, General Bajwa? Does it point to a division within the Pakistani military that maybe the world is unaware of?
I think it's not surprising again that Imran will use, he's very, it's a textbook example of Machiavellian politics. So it's very much the students of political science will remember the prince, and so this is one of the conversations that I detailed in the book as well, because I remember my son was in the first year of his politics course, and they were having this conversation, and Imran just sort of, put it in a nutshell and said Machiavellian politics works. And so I think this is very much Imran, where he will put up people for something, use them, and then backstab them. This is very, very typical. He has done that to every friend. He's done to every single founding member of PTI. I mean, whether it's a family member or whether it's a close friend, an ally, a friend and ally only serves Imran's interest and purpose until they serve the interest and purpose. And of course, I mean, this is politics.
Is that how you feel about your time with him?
I think that I'm probably sort of the only one who stood up to him. The difference between me and others is the fact that they are in awe. They are quite they can be blackmailed to this day as well. And I think I just surprised him because I wasn't I wasn't impressed, and this moral compass that is constantly sort of all over the place didn't impress me. So I think I'm a little bit of a shock to his system. But the rest of the people around him are gutted, are actually emotionally very upset about the fact that they have been backstabbed. I think what I mean is that everyone wants to be the chief of the army staff. Who doesn't want to be the chief of the army staff? Everyone wants to stay on being the chief of the army staff. Everyone wants to be the prime minister. Everyone wants the Sherwani. Who doesn't want to not leave the Sherwani? And Imran is just a very magnified version of everyone else. So he will do everything to stick onto his Sherwani and Kursi. And the chief of the army staff is, I don't think in any by any means sort of giving up the fight. And as you have pointed out, yes, there is a faction which we think is perhaps secretly, covertly supporting this little mini revolution attempt. The sort of resistance Imran is showing can't be without any backing. So I think there are aspirants within the army, but do not forget that within the army as well, there is this extreme resentment towards what is happening to the image of the army, and the existing establishment, the top 3 or the top 5 at the moment, are not winning any public support or any support within the army. I think that the fact that the army is being defamed is something that is making a lot of people within the institution very nervous, and that is probably the reason that they are saying, well, we are neutral, and that we don't want to be a part of all of the the way the dissidents have behaved, or the way the forward bloc is behaving, and also why this has now been bounced to the Supreme Court. So they're just passing the buck. I feel that everyone is passing the buck. Nobody really wants to take on a decision where there will be a possibility
Yeah.
of further defamation.
Explain who is Farha? Who is this mystery Farha? In India, we understand her to be a close friend of Bushra Bibi, Imran Khan's present spouse. Uh, Typically, as a woman, I don't actually like to draw spouses into a political conversation, but in this case, she's become very much part of the raging controversy. The opposition has accused her of being a center of corruption. They've accused her of sort of trysts with the occult. I'm talking about Mr. Khan's wife. And then there's the best friend that the opposition is calling her front woman. Can you explain what this is all about?
So I agree, Barka, that I feel uncomfortable sort of not only drawing, spouses or people who might be friends of the spouse or any females in this discussion, particularly now. I think that, of course, I'd only say one sentence about this and leave it at that, because I think it would be beneath me to say anything further, even if I had knowledge of that, because I think that is not the core issue. I think the opposition or those who are trying to defame the former first lady, when she was the first lady, they were, there was this campaign against her. And whatever my personal feelings might be about a woman and what role she has played in my life, I think that we need to be very clear what's happening now. This is not about the first wife, the first lady, or the former first lady, or the first lady's friend. But I will say that when you say that a man keeps, I think a woman also known by the company she keeps. Now, I think to draw attention to an issue with a peripheral issue, if there has been corruption during Imran's time, whether it's an Imran's friend or advisor or minister, I do believe that Imran doesn't have the eyesight that he claims to have, because he couldn't see the mafia sitting right, left to him and or behind him. And so perhaps this lack of eyesight, this lack of ability to identify good friends and good advisors might be shared by the wife also. For a marriage to work, you have to be soulmates. But I think that this is not the issue that we should be talking about right now. I think the issue is the fact that there has been a no confidence motion that Imran has refused to accept, refused to attend. He knows that he didn't have the numbers, he didn't have the support, and what he's done is an unconstitutional act. That is what the discussion should be about. No opposition member, no political activist, no journalist should be focusing on a peripheral issue. Yes, we should have insisted and continue to insist on the fact that any friend, any advisor, any bureaucrat that has supported this Naya Pakistan system should be on the exit control list. But I mean, they didn't talk about this when I was harping on about it a month ago, because I knew that people will fly off. I have identified those people. I did not want to name the ladies because, again, I thought that it would be unbecoming of me. But I made a general statement on Twitter that anyone who has supported this system should be on the exit control list, so that we can ask questions about what has gone on. And people should have a right to defend themselves in a court of law or by the other means of, shall we say, accountability forums that Imran is so fond of. But I think if right now we focus on this is just dodging the core issue. The issue right now is that why is the Supreme Court dragging its feet on a very, very simple decision? It's, in my eyes, an open and shut case. I do not understand why there's a lack of urgency. There has been a violation of the Constitution by the acting Speaker, Qasim Suri, and then a violation by the former Prime Minister, and also followed by the the continuous violations and system. That is what we should focus on. Who Farah Khan is, what she's done is perhaps a topic for another day, and perhaps maybe she's well out of our reach now.
Yeah, no, like I said, as a feminist, I typically would not focus on women who are not the main protagonists, but in this particular case, they've become part of a corruption sort of allegation, and that is why I raise it. But let's return to the psychology of what would make someone do something as brazen as what Imran Khan has done at this point. Now, your book was a very intimate, but I would say terrifying portrait of Mr. Khan. My question to you is, as someone who has known him intimately, you would understand that impulse that makes him take this gamble at this moment. What is it? What is the word that you would use to describe it? Is it delusions of grandeur? Is it an appetite for risk taking? Is it, as his fans say, that he thrives in crisis? What is it?
So it is typical grandiose behavior, the illusions of grandiosity. It's very typical. And so, I describe this scene in the book as well, which is sort of, something which was a repetitive scene on a daily basis, where he would just stand in a certain pose near the window and imagine himself as the prime minister. That is what I mean by ambition without a cause. So he didn't see beyond that. He's not about leaving a legacy. He's not about integrity. He really was quite desperate to have that prime minister label attached to his name before it was too late. And I think that is it. There is no further ambition. He doesn't want to give a speech which is worthy of being printed in our textbooks. He doesn't want to do anything where you would leave some kind of structure to the party. This PTI party is Imran. This is a one-man show. This was very much it. And a young woman was asking me how he was as a husband, and people have misunderstood where I've explained in the book how this society has created Imran. There are many Imrans in the society, but the fact that he's the only celebrity Pakistan has effectively created or accepted. We don't accept Malala as a celebrity in Pakistan. I think a lot of investment has gone into creating Imran's this hero status and this larger than life image. And I think that you can't even blame him, because he's had this fame and this kind of people, this sycophancy around him since he was 18, 21, and that without any grounding. He's never really led a real life where he's had to sort of change nappies, for example, or provide for his family, or things that normal people do, where you have people in your life that bring that bring you some kind of reality or realistic sort of approach to life. No friend has been like that. His ego has been continually fanned by people. He surrounds himself by sycophants. So that is all he wanted to be, and he will do anything, I repeat, anything to cling on to this position, because this is his life. There is nothing else that that enriches his life, relationships or children or friendships or things that, moments that mean perhaps are valuable for you and I. He is not that kind of a normal person. So I think that it will kill him to leave this. And so I was thinking, people were asking me, that no confidence motion is going to go ahead, and we have numbers close to 200. And I kept thinking, how is he going to sit there? It's not about even 173 votes. He doesn't have it in him to sit there and be voted against. I know the man isn't capable of sitting there and taking even one vote against him. That would kill him. And that's exactly what he did. So this is not a Muhtarma Benazir Bhutto, Shaheed, who can actually face opposition or who can use political maneuvering. This is a man who will break every rule in the book to get what he wants. And if it's snatched away from him, he will throw a tantrum. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he's leading Pakistan to the verge of anarchy. I mean, the violence and the anarchy that Punjab is seeing, the most populous province. If you see what's happening in Punjab, he's turned the whole narrative of the high treason, which he is guilty of, towards the opposition. And the opposition is on the defensive. So in many ways, what he's using is a thug or a badmashi kind of, image, which works in Pakistan. I think that is the thing that his followers thrive on. They quite like this bad man attitude.
Finally, Reham, this has been difficult for you. You know, you have, of course, written a very, very, I guess, cathartic, candid book about your life with him. But every time you comment on him, on politics, there will be his supporters who will dismiss you as, in that cliched way, as an embittered woman in his life. Has that been tough for you? Has that hurt to be taken seriously as yourself, as a political commentator, as a political activist?
I mean, it's not very pleasant to be referred to as an ex-wife, I will admit. But it's a double-edged sword, to be quite honest. And I'm not really bothered. To be honest, I can honestly say that the trolling or the criticism doesn't bother me. If people think that that's going to silence me, it's not worked for so many years, and I'm completely unaffected by that, unfazed. I would honestly, hand on my heart, it doesn't. It's just funny to us. It doesn't even affect my children anymore. It's because, you see, for me, I'm very clear that for me, Imran is a politician. For me, Imran is the prime minister of a country that has nuclear ability. He was the prime minister who happens to be in a land that I love very much, but also the fact that his decisions have a direct impact on the whole region. Anything that happens in Pakistan, any decision, whether it's the use of the religion card, whether it is, talk about Kashmir, whether it is talk about relationship with Afghanistan, it is impossible and inconceivable to any sane, sober person that it will not have an impact on our neighbors, on the region. And that is the issue. For me, he is a man who has an impact on 220 million people in Pakistan and all of our neighboring countries. And that is essentially what he means to me. So when I comment on him, it's in a very dispassionate, a very rational, and a very cool-headed way. I know as a woman, you will always get criticism. Even if I was not Reham Khan, even if I was not married to the most famous man, perhaps in Pakistan, I would have that criticism. Any divorcee in India, Pakistan, or our region is going to be blamed. One has to be, one has to have a crocodile skin. And I think in many ways, perhaps that is perhaps why I was chosen by destiny to be here. So yes, in one sentence, it doesn't bother me. I will continue to comment. I will continue to criticize. I think hopefully he is history. Hopefully he's not going to cause any more anarchy and violence for Pakistan. I do think that his political career is not going to be the same as it was. I think it is game over for him. I think that whoever has scripted this final episode has not only plans of diminishing the Punjab vote bank for PMLN, because effectively that was a target, but I don't think that it has done any favors to Imran. I think he will be perhaps used as a little bit of a noise of perhaps as a small lobby, but I don't really think that he is going to return the way he was perhaps facilitated in the past. I see that very clearly.
I just wanted to say good for you on the crocodile skin, because whether or not you're divorced, if you're a woman in our part of the world, you get judged anyway, so that's more power to you, right? It's
But my message, Barkha, and you faced it as well, is, it doesn't bother me. I think that it genuinely doesn't bother me. The advice to every woman out there is that if your conscience and if by your principles you're doing the right thing, if you sleep easy, I think do not be affected by how people might judge you. It is their problem. It is their insecurity and their lack of underachieving and jealousy. That is not yours or my problem. It is a problem in their heads, and it's best that it stays there. It shouldn't affect your smile. It doesn't mind.
Good. I couldn't agree with you more. And on that note, it's a perfect note to say thank you. I know we'll have you back as this story and this crisis in Pakistan takes many twists and turns. It's been a pleasure having you on the program, Reham. Thank you and take care.
Thank you, Barkha.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.